Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, October 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Michigan State game is in 3 days, the game against Michigan in 52 days. We are back into the swing of things today with some normal game week content. Tuesday, head coach Ryan Day, defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, and running backs coach Tony Alford met with the media to discuss where things stand right now after 5 games, and also preview this weekend's game at Michigan State. My guest today is Kevin Noon of Buckeye Huddle. Kevin, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Love being here.
But one of the traditions we've started developing this fall, since injuries have been such a issue ongoing every single week, is okay, we get to talk to Ryan Day on Tuesday, and then on the Wednesday show we talk about, okay, what did we learn about all the guys who've been injured, where things stand with them, who might be coming back this week, who might have another week or two to sit out. So let's just run through 3 of them right now. TreVeyon Henderson, Kamryn Brown, Jordan Hancock. We got answers on all 3 of those guys. Where do things stand with them right now?
Right, exactly. TreVeyon Henderson sounds like, I'm expecting him to play. You get all the little bits and pieces of this, that, and the other, but it sounds like things are going well there. With
Kamryn Brown.
With Kamryn Brown, they're hoping to get him back. He's going to go through practice. They're going to see. I mean, it sounds like he could be close. I know that he was out on the availability report last week, but it sounds like he's close. And then Jordan Hancock, sounds like they're going to, hopefully after the bye week or the open week. I've had it beaten into my head. It is not a bye week. You've not earned it. It is just part of your schedule. It is an open week. But look for potentially Jordan Hancock being back after that open week.
Yes, I will remind everyone: buys are reserved for tournaments. Good thing I'm wearing my glasses today. Adjust glasses. There we go. All right. So now we can get good and pedantic. Buys are for tournaments. Off weeks or idle weeks are for seasons. And now you know. Another guy who has missed quite a bit of time so far this season is Jaxon Smith-Njigba, of course. Was there any update on him? And then also, Ryan Day talked about what he calls Jackson plays and how it has really impacted them to not have JSN out there so far a bunch this season. So what did he have to say about that as well?
Yeah, to answer your questions in order, the first thing there is, that they're hoping to have him back this week. I think a lot of people have just summarily written it off that they're not going to play him until after the bye week, and that very well could be the case. I mean, we don't know, but they certainly, Jackson is itching to get back out there. Pretty much a direct quote from Ryan Day. He wants to get back out there. I mean, if this is his, if this is his last season in Columbus, potentially you only get so many games. So, if he's physically able to go, he's going to try to go. Does that end up meaning, though, that he doesn't get to go on this one? Maybe. I guess we'll see. But as for plays that are Jackson plays that are designed where Jackson is a main target, there are a lot of them. There were a lot of them designed, and it's certainly frustrating not having him out there for those plays to be able to run that. But the silver lining, as Ryan Day put it, is that it has given them an opportunity to see what else they have to be able to create Marvin plays and Emeka plays and Julian plays and so on and so forth, and Cade Stover plays. So when they are full strength, knock on fake wood here, within the next week to 3 weeks, whatever that may be, you'll have a lot of plays. And certainly a lot of these Jackson plays have not been seen because Jackson hasn't been seen. So as you get into the meat of the schedule, and Ohio State's schedule is somewhat backloaded in terms of its tougher conference opponents, a lot of this stuff will be fresh, and there won't be a lot of stuff on tape from 22 to be able to go to for new Jackson plays that have been drawn up.
And on defense, they have not had a whole lot of different guys who they have had, there have not been a lot of Cam Brown plays and no Jordan Hancock plays. And, outside of the injuries on, in the cornerback room, I think Denzel Burke and the play of Denzel Burke, who has also missed time with injury, but his play when he's been on the field has kind of been one of the other big stories. He hasn't really been getting burned with, a ton of frequency, but it also seems like every game he's sort of giving up a big play, maybe 2. So what did Ryan Day have to say about Denzel Burke and, how he's doing and what's going on with him right now?
Yeah, with Burke, it's, you got to remember, he's not been healthy, and a lot, they've been so tight-lipped about injuries. He was not healthy in camp, and that's something that Jim Knowles had said. He's gone through a lot, and he's been he's been gutting through a lot of things. I mean, he's right there on a lot of these pass plays. His footwork is good, his coverage is still strong, but it's a matter of finishing these plays out. And there's no diminishing belief in him. As Ryan Day said, quote unquote, we certainly believe in him, and that's what it comes down to. And yeah, I know that there are a lot of people out there that are frustrated, and I think it's a situation of where you sit there and you see Burke come in as a first-year starter last year as a true freshman, and he excels, and everybody's ready to pencil him in as the next first team or the next first-round draft pick out of Ohio State in the secondary, DBU, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it all hasn't come together. But I think when you couple it with injuries, I mean, he's out there playing with somewhat of a club on his hand, and I mean, yeah, that shouldn't prohibit him from getting into position. But I think that it's a situation, if you look at the vast majority of the game, I mean, he's right there. Unfortunately, it's that one play or those two plays that, people are going to remember, and ultimately that can, turn the tide of a close game.
And, they have not played a lot of close games with Michigan State recently. That is who, of course, they play this week. And, Ryan Day said, I'm going to read a direct quote here, "It's going to be hard just like it always is." And I thought, it doesn't feel like it's been that hard recently. Went back and looked. Yes, the last 2 years against Michigan State were 56-7 and 52-12. And that 2020 game, remember, that was the one where they were missing virtually their whole offensive line, and they still went up to East Lansing and won by 40. The Spartans have not finished a game against Ohio State closer than 20 points since 2016. I asked Kevin before the show, and he nailed the answer. Had the correct final score and everything. Good job, Kevin. So, with all that said, what was Ryan Day's scouting report on this year's Spartans?
Yeah, he seems to think that they're about a top 10 team, and it made it sound like they only had a loss rather than multiple losses. But they're a hard, tough team to play, and I mean, I think that when you go back and you look at Ryan Day's career at Ohio State, there certainly were a couple of games that were a little closer. I mean, again, it's been a minute since this has been a 1-point game, and we could go back to a 6-game stretch where actually over the 6 games where Ohio State and Michigan State traded wins, Michigan State outscored Ohio State by 3 over the cume over those 6 games. And you'll see some of that coming up in tail of the tape here on Wednesday. But, he certainly is not going to diminish an opponent, and he certainly knows that they're capable of doing some good things. I mean, there was a lot of hope for Michigan State being able to build on what they did last year, but that's part of the problem with being a team that's having to do it so much out of the transfer portal is you don't know necessarily what you're going to get. I mean, has Jalen Berger and Jarek Broussard been Kenneth Walker III? No, but, Kenneth Walker III was a special talent, but Ryan Day certainly is aware of what Michigan State is capable of doing. I think that when a coach watches game film, it's certainly going to be different than when you, myself, or somebody else is watching game film. They're seeing how things are done. But, one thing that I would say to Ryan Day is their secondary, which was 130 out of 130 last year, isn't significantly better this year.
Well, Ohio State doesn't like to throw the ball, do they? They don't have a good quarterback or wide receivers, right? I remember. It's been a while since I've watched an Ohio State game.
This is going to be like a windy November game too. It's going to be it's going to be pretty clear. I mean, there will be a couple of gusts, but yeah, it's not going to be raining sideways like it did under the Urban Meyer era.
Yeah, and someone else who's probably happy that there will not be crazy wind this week is Emeka Egbuka. There were some questions last week about why he didn't just back up a little to avoid having to field punts over his shoulder. There were a couple of shots from Rutgers punter that went over his shoulder, and he had to try and make very difficult catches on a windy day. One of them he muffed that led to Rutgers' first touchdown. Another one looked a little dicey, but he pulled it in. And I think everyone sort of wondered, okay, well, if this guy's consistently kicking it over your head, why don't you back up 5 yards and then not have to make those difficult catches? Ryan Day had an interesting explanation on that. So what was it?
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that I'd necessarily thought of until Ryan Day mentioned it, but the new turf there is, I don't know if it's like a trampoline park or something like that, but once the ball hits the ground there, it can roll, and you could be giving up 30 yards of field position if you just sit there and let it go, and it goes 30 yards. As he put it, that's 3 first downs. And then he also did kind of talk about the specifics of the one that Emeka did not field cleanly, the muff. And he was saying that If you looked at one part of the stadium, it was the wind was blowing, south, and then, somewhere else it was blowing north, and it was constantly changing and swirling. But if you sit there and you go too far back, I mean, you could sit there and a 27-yard punt could end up being 57 yards because of the way that the ball could bounce and roll off the ground there. So, and it's been very limited in terms of maybe some of, at least the bad things that have happened with Emeka back there. But we have seen more than a few over-the-shoulder circus catches, if you will, just with them having to kind of deal with what's going on there. So, I mean, it's a matter of kind of finding that happy medium. Fortunately, this game is not going to be on Ohio State's turf against Michigan State. It will be on that cold, hard ground in East Lansing. And, unless it suddenly gets windy, unbeknownst to the weather forecasters, I think that we should see a pretty good, pretty clean game out of punting. One other note, Michigan State is number one in net punting in the nation in terms of yardage. So you may just need to sit there and make sure that you are playing a little bit deeper just for the sheer fact that this kid's got a cannon on him.
B1G. B1G. All right, sorry. That's pretty much just I'm constitutionally required to do a big chant every time we talk about outstanding punting in the league. Something else that has been outstanding in the league is Jim Knowles' defense. He continues to be one of the more popular people in Columbus right now. Defense playing pretty well. I thought it was really interesting, though. He was not happy with where they are nationally in third down defense. And so people are thinking, it seems like they've been pretty good in third down defense right now, I'm guessing. So we'll let people know where they rank and why is Jim Knowles not actually happy with that.
Those darn slackers rank 11th in the nation. Out of 130 teams, 11th. Not even in the top 10. Get out of here with that. What a mess. He feels that they need to be doing better. And I don't think he necessarily was being ironic or cute or funny. It's certainly something that we have not seen in terms of where the defense had been in some of its lean years. So, when you're able to sit there and have those types of concerns about being 11th versus being 10th or 9th or 1st, I mean, I'm sure that's where Jim Knowles wants to see them. Things seem to be going right. And, I can go back into some of the lean years defensively and just, remember counting drives where teams would convert 3 or 4 third downs and just, chew up clock and march down the field. And with what's happened so far, it's been great. Now, granted, Ohio State certainly has not played the toughest part of its schedule, but even going back those couple of years, I mean, the Tulsas and the Tulanes of the world were having much better success on third down. So, Jim, if you're watching, go easy on the guys. They're doing their best.
Yeah, I think Jim Knowles may not be familiar with the standard in Columbus the last few years. If 11th is a big concern, seems like a pretty significant uptick in general for the defense this year. But there is always nothing is perfect, and obviously the Jim Knowles' standards are pretty high. So, what does he feel is his biggest concern about the defense right now?
Yeah, and I kind of alluded to it earlier when we were talking about Denzel Burke. But, I think a situation there is, the concern is that you can play great defense for, the vast majority of the game, but people are going to remember, the outcome of the game can be decided by, a breakdown here or a breakdown there. So, it only takes one play for something to go wrong. I mean, you have to continue to compete. You have to be able, whether or not it's 7-0 or 77-0, you've got to have this mentality of stopping your opponent on offense. And, it comes back to the competitive stamina and all those good things that we hear about and all those things that look great on a banner. But it just comes down, it's true. And, you really need it to become just a habit on creating the habit, regardless of what the score is of shutting teams down. And regardless if you're a 1 or a 2 or a 3.
In addition to Ryan Day and Jim Knowles, Tony Alford also talked on Tuesday. He told a story that I don't remember hearing before. We talked to Tony Alford a decent amount, and I don't remember hearing this story before. And that was that it was not all that easy to recruit Mayan Williams, at least at the start of that process. So what was the hurdle there? What did they have to get over in terms of Mayan Williams ending up at Ohio State?
Yeah, absolutely. And what it comes down to is recruiting. You have recruiting boards, and you have certain guys that you might have a little bit higher. And as he said, Mayan was right there, but if I'm remembering classes right, and they do run together after a while. I believe that was the class that Bijan Robinson was in. I believe that was the class that Jahmyr Gibbs was in, and Ohio State was recruiting both of those guys heavily. No, it wasn't. It was not Jahmyr Gibbs at Georgia Tech. It was a receiver who ended up going to Miami, Florida. But regardless, people are saying, "Oh, well, you're doing so well with these guys, and it looks like you're going to land them." And then a strange thing happens, and you don't land them, and you've got to cycle back. And it's very easy for a kid to feel like, okay, so I'm a plan B. Is that what's going on? And Mayan wasn't necessarily super receptive to phone calls and so on and so forth. And it really took Tony Alford sitting down with him and kind of putting some of it on him, on himself, on Tony, about how the recruitment had gone. And I think that once they kind of hit that turning point, but I mean, let's not forget too, Mayan Williams was committed to Iowa State, so it was a matter of getting him to back off of his Cyclones commitment and being able to get back in and have them really consider him. And the thing is that you look at Mayan Williams this year. I mean, he's a back that could pretty much play just about anywhere in the country. And to think about, he was somebody who came in as one of these later in the recruiting cycle surprises. So just a great story.
I think Jalen Knighton was the other guy they were in on during that Bijan Robinson year, if I remember correctly. But I think that was it. But so Arnie, enough running back recruiting reminiscences. We have to talk about one of the more frustrating parts of the game on Saturday for Ohio State fans, which had to be that long sequence of goal to go plays, easy for me to say, where it seemingly it took forever for the Buckeyes to punch the ball in. They finally did, but it was not quite as efficient as they and their fans probably would have liked. So Tony Alford talked about some of the reasons for that. Why is it so difficult to run the ball in those goal line situations at times?
Well, I mean, get ready for me to say, the Pee Wee Herman word of the day or whatever, but not having a running quarterback, certainly, creates some of the issues there. There's not a situation of, you don't have a lot of space to begin with. You don't run the quarterback, so you're always going to be outnumbered. But, you just have to sit there and punch it in. And it's, okay, as my cat's attacking me, so it's not easy. But I mean, I do remember it was a 10-play drive, and it felt like they ran 14 plays inside the red zone on that one drive going toward the south end zone. But really, when you don't have a lot of space, you have a very limited route tree that you're able to run. A lot of the things that you're going to do there, because they're just going to be it's not a matter of, oh, well, how many guys are in the box? Well, when the back of the box is 2 yards into the end zone, you lose a lot there, and it just takes a lot of things to happen. But Ohio State is one of a few teams out there to always get points in the red zone this year. I mean, they're not. I think there was like 6. And Ohio State's doing very well in terms of touchdowns inside the red zone. So things are working, even if they are a little bit slower than people would like on certain drives, because that one drive certainly was, there was a level of frustration there.
Yeah, there was a level of frustration in the stadium. There was a level of frustration on the sidelines. They did get there eventually, and they won by 39 points, but those are the standards in Columbus. Apparently Jim Knowles is not the only one with very high standards. Now, not only have to score, you have to make it look good, and you have to do it quickly so that everyone can go get their popcorn or go to the bathroom or whatever it is that they need to do during the TV timeout that follows a touchdown. So there you go. There will probably be more touchdowns this weekend up in East Lansing. Kevin and I and Tony Gerdeman and I will be up there giving you the usual full pre- and post-game coverage at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you get notified when we post a new video. Something else you can do that will really help us out both on YouTube and on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. That will help other folks find these shows. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, leave us a 5-star rating and review. If you enjoy these shows, that also will sort of bump us up the algorithm and help other folks find new Ohio State football content. No one else is doing an Ohio State football podcast on the whole internet. It's just this one, and also the one that Kevin does, and also the one that Tony Gerdeman and I do. So make sure you rate and review all of those shows. They're all a lot of fun to do. Hope you guys enjoy them. That's just a little easy thing you can do to take a minute to help us out a little bit as well. And finally, something else you can do that would help us out would be to subscribe to Buckeye Huddle. We have fantastic content there. Kevin mentioned earlier his Tail of the Tape column coming out today. That is always, exhaustive sounds bad, but I mean it in a good way. It is an exhaustive review of everything you need to know about the upcoming game this week. Obviously, Michigan State, but it is a really fantastic weekly piece. Mark Givler does his Skull Session column looking at recruiting news. Alex Glatman does his ADEC column on recruiting news. Tony Gerdeman does What I Know, What I Think, What I Wonder. Ross Fulton does his game analysis. There is a fantastic array of content there covering pretty much every angle of Ohio State football. It's all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up today. We've got some cool stuff coming. I was just part of a text chain. We got some cool stuff coming in the next week or two, so you're going to want to sign up and get access to all of that. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.